This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bear Boat Alaska. Up your DIY hunting game with one of their 37-foot adventure yachts. You and 5 of your friends can hunt, fish, set crab pots, shrimp pots, and take DIY to the next level. Bear Boat Alaska is locally owned by a Ketchikan resident who lives here year-round. Call Larry at 907-617-4542 or go to bearboatalaska.com. That's B-A-R-E boatalaska.com and tell Larry you heard about it on this podcast. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Islander Calls and Creations. Bill and Sarah Yockey are lifelong residents of Prince of Wales Island, and their unique deer calls are built for blacktail hunting specifications. Check out their Facebook page, Islander Calls and Creations, to order yours today. Welcome back to the podcast. Jaden Bales, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, it's been a long time since we've caught up, and I'm curious how things are going. I'm excited to catch up with you.
It's kind of funny because I think, man, I haven't had Jaden Bales on for a long time, but it's always ends up being about a month and a half.
Is that right?
Something like that. It always seems like, man, I haven't talked to him in like half a year, 5, 6 months, 7 months, and it ends up being every about month and a half, 2 months that I have you on. So that's good as it works out like that, I think, for the most part.
Thanks. That's how I keep my correspondent status.
That's true. How's the season going for you? Because we're up here and it's October, so the alpine deer season is over. We're now looking at rut, and people are kind of counting the tags. So if you have, ideally you have 2 alpine tags taken care of, you got some deer in the freezer, and you got 2 more tags getting ready for rut. But I don't have any deer yet. Abby has 1, but things aren't necessarily shaping up as I had planned.
Hey, wait, isn't it what's hers is yours and what's yours is ours in that situation? Like
Exactly.
No, that's great. Man, I always think about this time of year. I start feeling like, oh my gosh, like things have moved so fast because we've been hunting for a month and a half or whatever down here. And if you're an archery antelope hunter anyway, it's a month and a half. But really, a lot of things are just getting started. A lot of rifle season started in early October. A lot of deer and elk seasons have yet to open up. So, I'd like to summarize the season, but I feel like, man, I've just been lucky to get out a bunch. So I can't really say it's been a bad season or not. I've been out a ton, and I've shot a couple antelope does, and I shot an elk and unfortunately lost it with my bow. So that's been how the season's gone, and and that you try to summarize it, but gosh, you're talking like 20 days maybe a field in the last month and a half, including antelope season. So like it that doesn't really summarize it very well, right? That's just the highlights.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too, that I don't have any deer, but I'm not really that panicked. I have a caribou and a mountain goat. Like that's a legendary start to the fall. Like who am I? So I feel horrible to even complain or mention the fact that I don't have a deer yet because things have been so good. But that is the thing that I look forward to so much is the alpine deer and those things. And that's the thing that I should be the best at this point. But you start looking forward to that stuff and you start thinking that you're going to apply all the cumulative knowledge of all of your career so far. And then when it doesn't necessarily turn out, you think, oh man. And I think it's different up here because we have such a long season. So we have 4 months and you can get multiple deer. And so I think unless you have a bunch of tags, it can kind of stress people out because their whole year is tilted toward the 1 week-long trip or the 10-day trip that they're making. That can add some bonus stress.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel so lucky to have my first tag opened August 15th this year. And the last one closes January 31st, and that being a cow elk hunt. And so I think you're right. We're kind of in a lucky select group of people who have the opportunity to hunt for a long, long time. But for the majority of folks who hunt, like you said, like a week or 2 a year, it's definitely a lot more. I could see it creating a lot more anxiety to try to get something down.
Yeah, especially when you add in the travel. Like if you were if this is the week that you plan to go to Colorado or Montana or Idaho or Alaska, like it has to work out. This is the only time that I
Mhm.
have, so it's nice to
Mhm.
have more options. But
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've talked to a couple of people who've gone on elk hunts like from back east. They've been clients of mine, and uh, nobody, the two guys I'm thinking about right now, are actually it's really three I'm thinking about right now, didn't fill their tags, right? But they also like the whole thought process behind their hunts was, I just want to go and learn, and I just want to go
mm,
and like enjoy this whole process. So, I think that's a huge factor, right? That you don't each hunt's a little different as to what you're trying to get out of it. Because if you're these guys and you're just coming out here to Colorado, for example, and just trying to be in elk, and they got in elk, and you know what? That's a success. So I don't know that they have a whole lot of heartbreak coming home after that versus, like us who have these really long seasons and are just used to getting critters. That's just a totally different mindset that we go into the season with.
yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this. There's a couple different angles to it. One is with the proliferation of social media and experiences, it has offered. We have so many more amazing, incredible opportunities, and it's so positive that we have these. It can connect us to hunts that we wouldn't ordinarily know about, which is so great. And then a potential byproduct is that you have, do people not have we eliminated the contentment that we used to have with hunt specialization? So there were people who were just mule deer hunt and would just crush mule deer, and that was their thing. They didn't think about caribou. Like they don't care about caribou because it just wasn't on the radar. So
Right.
you put some of these hunts on the radars for other people, and it's like, man, I'm so thankful. I'm so happy that I was able to have this experience, caribou or not, or in Abby and I's case, elk or not. It was so much fun to be down there and be in elk, even though they weren't bugling and they'd gone quiet. It was still such an amazing experience. I'm so happy I was able to do that. But for some people, they're, oh, I heard about this hunt. I'm going to throw some money at it, and if it doesn't work out, then I'm going to be upset about it, and that's an unfortunate byproduct of it. But it's cool to hear about people who are excited for the opportunity for the experience, not taking that as a guarantee that they will get meat or be successful.
I see that a lot in like when someone burns a bunch of points or spends a bunch of money on a hunt. That's for some reason that is gonna guarantee that they have a more successful or more like a hunt that meets their expectations more. And I feel like oftentimes the more invested you have, the more disappointed people end up being, rather than like I had this elk hunt with my dad and brother last year, and I just knew that we weren't going to be just hammering all over the place because this is a family hunt and like we're gonna do it all together. And and that was a totally different outcome than if I would have been like, man, I'm going to try to find the biggest bull and I burned 30 points or
Yeah.
whatever the case is, right? It just, oh man, I think that if we keep everything in perspective a little bit better, it can alleviate that. But gosh, it's really easy to get down that trap of just being like, it's got to be this, specific way, this specific experience, or it's not the experience I wanted,
Yeah. We see that a lot up here, and I have some guide buddies that come up and they talk about people who've come up and they get really disappointed when they don't catch a 50 or 60 pound king, and they don't have that perspective. And they've talked for months about going up to Alaska, and they have this. They tell their friends, they're bragging to their friends that they're going to come up here, and so when it doesn't happen, it's like a hit to their ego because they were the ones who were going to make everybody jealous for their trip up here, and they were going to catch all these fish, and they've hyped it up so much that if it doesn't happen, it's not a matter of, oh dang it, I didn't get the fish. It's how am I going to face my friends who were supposed to be jealous of me because I was talking so much trash and it didn't end up happening. So yeah, that approach, but you can't do anything about that. Like that's people are going to have that approach, and that people are going to do that, and that's I don't know if you can. I think you can definitely learn to think a little bit differently and maybe change your approach a little bit. But um, yeah, it's kind of sad when people have that, and it ruins what could be really really fun.
I actually am having this conversation with my brother right now. So he's coming out for like we've got a 6-day rifle mule deer season here locally, and he has a tag just for this local area. And he's coming out. We're really excited. I've scouted a whole bunch. I've seen a bunch of deer, yada yada. But at the same time, and I actually was supposed to have the conversation with him tonight, but didn't. Anyway, him and I need to discuss the fact that, like, look, as soon as we see an animal, we need to like take a sec and be like, deep breath, ooze fraba, and like really embrace the fact that we have set a lot of expectations for him to get a deer. And if you over set those expectations, you lose your noggin and you lose your cool when you're in the moment. You got to really just stay focused because, just keeping that good perspective is like could ruin like and make or break a hunt.
Yeah. So part of opportunities here, when you talk about making or breaking a hunt, knowledge is such an important thing. And we have outfitters who you spend a ton of money, but everything's taken care of. You have, on the opposite end, you have the free podcasts and things like that, do your own research. Then you have kind of, you can pay for class and such. And so you've found a different space. Talk a little bit about the space that you found that's also in the middle there.
Well, one of the things I've always loved is kind of like sending people pins and like talking about an approach for a hunt. And I've done it with you and Abby. And like, I love doing that thing because it's like getting the insider information on like a hunt you're doing. And then when you have success or not, like, then, I think that it's really cool to kind of talk through what happened, why, when, and like, I think there's just a ton of learning with that. I mean, I think especially, I've got a ton more to learn and I do it on all my hunts. And when I think about when I got my first elk, I did that with Cody Rich. And we did that through the podcast. So I basically like looked at all this like history of this like kind of advising or consulting that people do to each other and with each other, myself to others and others to me, and I thought that was really helpful. So I started Hunt West, which is a project of mine that I'm just trying to play around with, helping people out on their hunts, like doing exactly what we're talking about, looking at setting the right expectations, step one, and then two, like figuring out a game plan that fits someone's style. Like not everyone is going to be the Ryan Lampers 12-mile backpack into the backcountry, and not everyone's going to be the Jason Carter looking for the biggest trophy buck on the mountain either. So it just really just working with folks and trying to help them have really good hunts has been something that I've been focusing on with Hunt West, and it's been really fun this year. It really has.
Mm-hmm. So you don't like the term consulting, but that is essentially what you're doing, which is a cool thing to provide. It's people can't afford outfitters, and people are, it's still I don't know, who cares about the classification. It's a DIY, but with enhanced research. I don't know, but what's the operational load, or how many clients are you taking on?
Man, I like to think of it as like trip advising, or like a travel agent for hunting, right?
Nice. I like it.
It's not giving someone the spot where they have to go, but it's teaching them the tools to figure out how to keep looking and having a game plan for each day of their hunt, right? Because like I'm not gonna, I don't know, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it to folks. Like I don't know exactly where the deer or elk are in these units, but I can also teach them like, hey, this is what you're looking for. You want to go, in these zones that are overlooked by people, or where you can kind of get away from folks without having to hike 12 miles in the backcountry. Or like in the case of some folks, it's like, here's some really great looking habitat and you have to back into there. Like, I just think that there's a lot of different approaches, and it's been fun to basically just sit down and look at what each person wants and try to help them build a game plan around it.
Yeah. People get really funny about helping other people. And, as a writer, outdoor writer, I try to be as, vague as possible when it comes to places and whatnot, because, Prince of Wales is on the map. People go to hunt and fish Prince of Wales, and the rivers there are packed with people now. And that seclusion, that isolation that you used to be able to get, you don't really get anymore. But that's, it's providing money for the island. So there's always going to be people who are upset about the people who are making money off it, who are writing about it, who are getting the word out about it. Do you consider that but don't worry about it, or how do you approach the people who are inevitably going to take your entrepreneurial idea and turn it into some sort of, this is the worst thing in hunting since, well, killing the bison from the trains or something.
Yeah, man. And I think that it's something I think about a lot because I'd never want to like blow up someone's spot. And that's why like these places that I'm helping them look at, the vast majority of them I've never been to before. Or if I have been there, like I've driven through it, I haven't hunted it before.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
And that's because I'm trying to teach people how to do it, not like what the exact spot is. And I think that it's the term I like to say is like, you know, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, and you teach a man to fish, and he can feed himself for a lifetime. Like that's the whole idea behind it, right? So and I think that when you look at the influx of people that are interested in hunting out west or just hunting in new, unique kind of ways, I don't see a slowing tide of people getting into it. What I would like to see though is just a better cohort of people coming in and doing a better job when they go out there, not just running around on their razor and causing a big ruckus and tearing stuff up, right? So, you know, that's I think where you can see an opportunity to make a positive impact while helping people learn.
Yeah, it's like the movie Hitch when Will Smith's character he's by recommendation only, so he can control the clients, and and it just helped people, and it's realizing like that he doesn't actually help them, like they kind of help themselves, or what he tried to help them with, or the suggestions that he gave him weren't really the things that was working. It was just the confidence to be able to be noticed. It wasn't like any sort of tricks or anything by by someone who's good at getting girls or making relationships or something like that. It's like you said, it's enabling people to make the right decision in the right moment and have the confidence to follow through with the plan, rather than just saying, well, I'm just going to throw money at it, or I have no idea what I'm doing and I just hope I get lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do a questionnaire like survey thing before I help anybody out. And like the question is what kind of experience do you want? And then I also ask them like, what would make this really helpful? And if someone says like, I want to know like the biggest critter in the unit and like how to get it, I'm like, I'm not going to be helpful for you, like this, you're so right. Like it is very much based on like, you got to have the right person who is looking for their personal, like trying to teach themselves and not just look for the get out of jail free card.
Mm-hmm. Have you found people, I know you're kind of new into it, but there's people who represent who they wish they were versus who they actually are. So when you're filling out a questionnaire, you can think that you embody all these great attributes of a hunter who, is just ethical, and I'm about the experience. But have you had any that might not have a sense of reality when it comes to who they really are?
I think a large part of it is like the questionnaire is built in a way that like I try not to set anyone up. If they're answering the questions in a way that might not be a good fit, like it's gonna catch my eye, right? The other thing I do just to answer your question, the number one thing that I keep seeing is everyone wants to backpack hunt and no one wants to actually be fit enough to backpack.
Oh yeah.
So like that is a huge factor. And I've seen it with like 3 or 4 different people so far that like they were like, yeah, I want to, they answer the question, I want to backpack hunt. And then you get to like breaking down like what their physical fitness is like and like how much they've done before. And you realize that like we really actually got to step back and like backpack hunt for them means walking around the woods with a backpack on after sleeping at the truck. So that's been a huge piece.
That's such a, I want to be the type of person who does this, and that's an identity thing versus, will you actually do that? And there's such a big difference. That's one of the cool things about some of these experiences, that if you are pushed, you find that, you can do that. That is you potentially, and you can have that experience. And then it becomes less about telling other people and more about just that feeling of, man, I did that. Like we biked, we took a boat, and then we hiked 6 miles and then camped, and then another 3 miles and shot a deer, then 3 miles back to camp, then 6 miles. Like, dude, nice, and going from sea level to 3,000 feet in elevation, those sort of things are really cool. And it's fun to find that you're capable of that. And that's, it's fun to be able to help people see that, in themselves and provide that. And that's awesome.
But it's one of those things where, so like, I have a friend of mine, there's an aquatic invasive species kind of cracked down in Wyoming, so we had to put the kibosh on this plan. But we were planning on boating into an area in Wyoming to go deer hunting. Not because it was like significantly better hunting to boat into this area and then camp on the beach, but because it was like part of this experience that we really wanted. My buddy's dad, who was trying to orchestrate all this, is like, man, I have shot big deer. I have shot a lot of deer. I just want one in this specific way. And I think that when you're looking at like the style of hunt that you do, there's like just a big adventure that goes with it. It's like logistically like not easy. There are a lot easier ways probably to kill deer, or to like, fill your freezer. And this is maybe just from a lower 48 perspective, but there are a lot of easier ways to get a deer or an elk than to backpack in and get one. It just happens to be like, that is a great experience, or to boat in and get one is a cool experience. And I think sussing out like what someone really wants out of a hunt is hard and important to do, but we don't do it very often.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple lakes around here because our road system isn't very extensive on this island. Prince of Wales has a pretty extensive road system, so they can get around a lot of different areas. But there are some lakes around here that you could hike around pretty easily. But now that Abby and I both have pack rafts, just, hey, let's raft across. Just a whole new experience, just a different thing. Let's play the pack rafts and let's go. And yeah, it's just cool to include different things and different toys and have a different experience. And not that it ever gets mundane, not that it ever gets old, but just that opportunity for something new and fresh is just, it's so great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I also think that it's one of the things that we don't talk about is like, I'm going to do this thing because it sounds freaking fun. Like that's okay to do. If it's fun to have a nice camp or to sleep in a motel, like, gosh, just do that. Don't worry about what you think other people may or may not think about how hard you hunt or don't hunt or whatever, like Jess and I have talked about this a lot this year. Like, how can you make sure you have fun on these hunts while also going really hard in the paint? And it just is, we've got a lot of pressure, I think, right now, from, particularly, I like to blame social media, but also just from the general ethos of hunting right now to go really hard.
Yeah.
It's not always what it's all about.
Yeah, I think we get really caught up in minimalism, in badass, in difficult, and sometimes we could forget about just how fun it is to be out there and then warm and comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I took minimal stuff and I only took, 18 saltine crackers for the whole time. So, well, why? There's nothing wrong with, hey, we brought a ton of stuff out in the truck and we truck camped and it was awesome. Or bringing the hot tent, and tons of food, taking the boat out and everything. It's okay to have a ton of fun. You don't have to have this epic story of how badass you were and how minimal you were and how miserable things were. Like having fun is good too.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And it's not like I want every hunt also should be different. I think that's the other thing people forget. Because you can I mean, just, each one has its own challenges. Each weekend's a little different. This weekend, I'm going to go pronghorn hunting in an area that I might like legitimately backpack in for a pronghorn this weekend.
Nice.
But I also shot two antelope does in front of my house, two pronghorn does that I left the house with my rifle in my hand and walked out in the meadow and got them, right? Like each thing has it. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. I would love at some point to do one of those, maybe llama. I'm not sure about getting on a horse in some of that rugged territory, but just go back to one of those camps where you have the canvas tent and you have, full on meal and everything. We saw up on when we were hunting caribou, someone had one of those programs and they just firewood stocked outside, and it was there was a wife and there was at least one kid. And I was like, dude, this dad's doing it right, and he understands and knows that if this is going to be a family thing, it's going to have to be maybe a little bit more comfortable than what he ordinarily does with some of the buddies. But it was an awesome tent. Took a while to set up, but we were jealous of just the comfort, and we were in awe of the program that he was running, and it was really cool, and that'd be really fun to do one of those in a rural area. But if you start talking about the cost of that, I mean, it sounds definitely like an outfitter type hunt, not just, I don't know, the amount of money that you could spend on something else would probably, you get an outfitter for an elk hunt somewhere remote that's got everything taken care of, or you could do 5, 6, or 7 or 8 other hunts. So I don't know if I'll ever do
Yeah,
it, but that sort of cool comfort elk camp seems like a cool thing to do.
yeah. There's totally a balance of being financially responsible and doing one hunt really well versus like doing a bunch of hunts, the way you want to do them. So, dude, I struggle with this all the time. I would imagine everybody else does too, because I've noticed every time that a topic has been brought up, you're like, man, I'm always like, balancing this. I'm like, oh yeah, this is just a common thing.
Yeah. And I do wonder, and again, going back to the social media and the internet and YouTube and the fact that we don't have the same gatekeepers that there used to be. Anybody can make content. And so it seems like everybody has this long resume of so many different hunts. If you're a Western hunter, you've been to 3 or 4 different states. You have a fistful of tags. And at some point you have been to Alaska or are going to Alaska. And so I think those voices are probably amplified. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who are super, Robbie Denning, like the guy just crushes mule deer and he loves mule deer. Brady Miller, those guys are mule deer guys. They've done other hunts too. But, we just get this sort of, I can't be satisfied, or I don't want to just be a Sitka blacktail guy in Southeast Alaska. My resume is incomplete if I haven't done these other epic experiences. And that can be a trap, but it can also push us to do some epic things that we're going to be so happy that we did for ourselves, not just so we could tell other people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's one of those things that, like, I identify, quote unquote, identify as a mule deer guy, right? It's like one of the things that I really just like. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what kind of hunting you want to do? I want to go mule deer hunting, but Jess and I work really well together in a elk hunting team, and it just makes more sense, and we have some epic hunts when we go elk hunting, and deer hunting is more of a solo thing. So I think that there's totally like it's good to have people around you who kind of push you to do a little bit things that are not just in your comfort zone,
Right. Yeah. So what's up next? What do you got next hunt?
So we're kind of elk hunting. Elk season is open here next to our hometown, and We're elk hunting, and Jess is trying to take her mom out. Her mom is 67 years old, and is just a firecracker. Her name's Jenny. Jenny is one of the most fit 67-year-old women I've ever been around. And we got her shooting, and she's going to try to get an elk. So Jess is going to go hunt with her this weekend primarily, and I'll be tagging along a little bit here and there. But then also I'm going to go probably do that pronghorn hunt. Try to get my buck this weekend. I really like those like solo sufferfests. So I'll go give that a shot. And then my brother's coming out the 15th of October for 6 days. And again, it's one of those things where, like, I will say the pressure is probably pretty high, and we need to lower that pressure a little bit before the season hits here. But we have big expectations just because of how much scouting and how much work that has gone into the preseason planning. So, there's a lot going on, man. It's really fun time of the year for sure.
Nice. I got blacktail for the near future. It was awesome to get those other exotic hunts out of the way, but it's going to be blacktail. Abby leaves for Boise for a wedding, so she'll be down in the lower 48 for a couple days, and so this weekend I'm going to do an unsupervised solo trip somewhere, and it looks like the weather might be okay, so I might camp. It'll be a little chilly. It's kind of nice to get out on that first chilly hunt where it's camping and you're out there. You had some snow on that last one. That's pretty cool that you guys were. Did all that snow go away by the end of the day as it does down there sometimes, or do you have to fight it the rest of the time?
Yeah. I mean, we were up there at 9,000, or the second day we were hunting at 9,500 feet or 9,800 feet, and there was still snow, but it was melting. So I'd imagine by now it's gone. So what is when you're going solo like that, are you going to backpack in and like do the whole thing, or do you try to sometimes reel it in a little bit and hunt some hunts closer to home?
We're in that transition period. A lot of people don't hunt the early part of October because the deer aren't moving a whole lot. They're kind of getting in that pre-rut, waiting for things to really start kicking up, and so people really waiting for them to get to the point where they're going to come to a call. So there's a lot of stuff from the truck. You just kind of go from the trunk, do a day hike, or camp at the truck. That's kind of my program at this point. Alpine season, when you get on top of the mountain and you camp up there and do that whole thing. But there's I don't know, there are a couple different opportunities that involve a couple different things regarding where I camp, if I'm going to camp away from the vehicle or at the vehicle. But yeah, sometimes you bring all the stuff, and then based on what you feel, based on other people that are around, and based on what the weather actually does compared to what it was forecast to do, then you make the call and you go with that. So, yeah.
How do you balance hunting with your significant other versus like hunting with the plans that you want to make, or is there ever an issue with balancing those two?
There's not much. I'm not super experienced. I have a whole bunch of days under my belt, but I've only been hunting, and I hunted a lot of solo days. Hunting for, I think this is my 10th season, so I have more intuition than Abby does, and she recognizes that. But at the same time, she'll had some insight, or what about this or that, so she doesn't just follow me around. She's very smart, picks up stuff. So and I ask her stuff too. It's like, well, I was thinking about this, what about this, and so we'll talk about certain things. And yeah, we hunt pretty well together. We haven't had a ton of success, but a lot of the road system stuff around here is it gets hammered pretty good. And without the boat, we're kind of limited to where we can go. But yeah, it's fun to be out there with someone. I like solo camping or solo hunting because I get to run the exact program that I want to. But at the same time, it's nice there's kind of an accountability level. So if you get frustrated and you just want to angry hike, if you're with someone else, it's like, okay, I can't get angry right now. I have to keep hunting, stay calm, stay with it. And you have another set of eyes out there. You might be making more noise, but there's definitely a benefit to it if you use it to your advantage.
Yeah. And I think we're probably also really lucky that our significant others are pretty tuned in. They're like very adept, and it's helpful. One of the things that I struggle with is expressing to Jess, like, man, today I just need to go and do a mind clear that like is just me wanting to run my face off. And I understand that it's not the most effective, but I just need to do it. Like I'm going to hammer. And it's something I've struggled with, man, is communicating that, because it's not like I don't want to hunt with them, but it is something where you have to also prioritize your own mental clearing time. So anyway, that's why I brought it up, just because it's been something I've struggled with. And then Jess has really helped me. She's like, okay, I can tell you're frustrated. Like, you need to also do something for yourself and express it and communicate it. So I guess that's a whole different therapy session to talk about couples communication. Yeah, it just is something I didn't know if you had talked about or thought about.
Yeah, I'm more likely to get frustrated. I try to approach it with just the excitement, and I usually do. I'm so excited to go hunting, and so it ends up being the stress of the week, or maybe some kids were unruly, and you just question the whole thing. But then, the weekend. So I usually approach hunts with just euphoria almost, but then something inevitably happens, that there's someone where we want to go, or the weather doesn't cooperate, or we don't see anything. So I start to get frustrated in that moment. And Abby's pretty good about calming me down, or or reminding me, or I just kind of look and like, oh, this is stupid. Why I shouldn't be? I can't be throwing tantrums. Like there's no honor in a tantrum, so I need to calm down a little bit. So I'm getting better, but
Yeah.
it's nice to get out there. And again, having more days. I think it would be really stressful if there was, if we were running out of days. And last year on the elk hunt, when we weren't finding an elk for Abby yet, it wasn't my tag, so I wasn't super stressed. But she was just seeing how excited she still was, and still willing to walk, and we were still getting after it, and there wasn't a defeated attitude. She was excited to be out there. And then we started having some encounters toward the end. Even though there was nothing making any noise, they were responding to cow calls, but they were coming in quiet, and it didn't end up panning out. But on the first day of mule deer season, she shot a nice one, and it was actually funny because we saw a couple of them, and I made a point to be just calm and just, hey, there's this. You can use the pack for rather than get really excited, which I've done before. I kind of rush things for her or for me, and I create a lot of tension. But I made a point to just, hey, we have time. It's fine. Hey, let's go up to this bush. And so it was, but because of my reputation for kind of freaking out, getting too excited, she's like, just. I'm like, hey, we're fine. We're fine. And so it was cool to just kind of she keeps me in check really well, which is nice, and it's helped me be a more effective hunter, at least in that moment. I help kept things calm. So it's pretty fun. It's nice to be able to share that too. I have some friends who talk about just how special it is and how unique it is that you can have like real hunts. There are definitely people who go out hunting with their significant other, but like there's no limits. Abby will go with me on any hunt. The mountain goat hunt, it was super, super steep, and I know she had some foot issue going on, but she was a trooper, didn't make one peep about it, and just had a good time. And it was fun to be able to share that experience with her, and she was really fired up for the mountain goat too. And so it's great.
Oh, that's so good, man. Well, it's definitely one of those things that I don't think we ever talk about, but I could tell you from a couple of experiences I've had now, that losing my crap and like getting all excited when you want to see them have success, like, does not help the situation at all.
No, it doesn't.
Here's the guy, get it, post up here. No, here's my pack. And then you're like, no, use this log. And they just need to work through it, and then have it, at least in our experience, like anytime that Jess has worked through the situation herself, not had me losing my stuff in the background, like that's turned out really good.
Yeah.
When you try to like force it and you get all excited, like, gosh, that just is not the way it goes. My dad was really bad about getting super excited like that. And I don't wonder if, like, we can't be better mentors by acknowledging that, and like trying to make a concerted effort to just letting someone figure it out. And then when something gets away, just being like okay with that, because it's a learning experience. If they needed to do it faster and that critter just got away because they didn't do it fast enough, like that is part of the learning experience. They're probably not going to get it if you try to rush them either.
Yeah. Yeah. I look back at that mule deer, and I may have been talking to myself More so than Abby. Just, hey, we have time. It's okay. He's right there. Let's be patient. Let's wait for the
Yeah.
next one. Let's use the
Yeah.
pack. That was probably just me speaking to me, loud enough for Abby to hear, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? But worked out great.
That's totally right, man. When you like have to walk yourself through it, and it's for yourself almost as much as them, is like, I think that's good though, because it is, as much as they're, the shooter is going through their own mental process. You just want to see them do so well. It's just like, come on, man, like, dude, end this anxiety for me, like,
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really important to call it out and to get it under control.
Yeah. Well, speaking of mountain goat, Abby's cooking up some mountain goat dinner. I'm not sure. She has a couple. She has some relatives who are like live in Hong Kong, so she has these really great
What?
Asian recipes for. They go great with the mountain goat and caribou and stuff, and so it's not just American food and burgers and pasta and stuff like that. We're getting some really nice Asian cuisine. It's pretty good.
Oh, that sounds so good. Well, send me some recipes, because I think it sounds like that mountain goat might be, you might be able to work with it similarly to like maybe antelope. Would you think?
It's pretty good. I shot my mountain goat was only about a year and a half, 2 years old, so it was younger is tastes pretty good. But yeah, I wasn't going to pass up a solo billy like that, and go home empty handed. So yeah, it's the meat's pretty good and pretty versatile. So
Oh, that's awesome. Well, cool, man. I'll have to give that a shot and play with some of that stuff. We've got sous vide mule deer and
ooh,
sous vide elk going on
nice,
right now.
excellent.
I've had it before, but we just got a sous vide for ourselves. This is the first time we're doing it ourselves, and we'll have to play with it. I know
Yeah,
it's all the rage, it seems like, these days, to
yeah,
run a
man,
sous vide. So
for sure. But, well, it was nice talking to you, man. I really appreciate you helping Abby and I out. Good luck with the business again, and where can people find you and all that?
oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, man, and I will say this, I just to take a step back, like, I appreciate you and Abby, being supportive and like being a guinea pig and all of this stuff. Like, I've kind of talked with you guys a lot about the hunts that you and I talked about and how that ended up working out. So yeah, thanks for even just letting me be part of those as like an observer and game planner with you. That's been really cool to see you guys have some success, like a lot of success, really a ton of success. So thank you. Uh, if anyone wants to like hit me up about Hunt West plans, man, I think it'd probably be best if I just look at 2023 at this point, just because the lead time is really tough with hunting plans. I've had like 2 week lead times right now, so it's probably better to look to next year. So 2023 hunt tag applications and hunt plans, you can do that at huntwest.net, or just give me a shout on social media at Jaden Bales. That'd be huge.
Excellent, cool, man. Thanks, appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and gosh, keep it grinding on this deer season. I'm excited to see how it turns out, because I know you've put in so many days. It always turns out eventually.
Yeah,
It's gonna come out with some meat in the freezer. I
it'll
can
be.
I can guarantee.
Oh yeah, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Have a good evening.
you too.